India की कोई practicing firm hasn't made it that large today. What do you think will be the reason for that?
So there's one misconception: Big Four versus other firms. The Big Four is nothing but a collection of Indian partners only.
I mean, that's where Jack Dorsey had also mentioned that, 10 years of perseverance, determination makes me look like an overnight success. How do you stay relevant as a CA today?
So I think your real beginning of knowledge starts after you pass your chartered accountancy.
We have seen that number of CAs aspiring to practice versus industry has switched.
The whole industrialisation, the formalization of India in the last 20 years has gone up exponentially.
I mean, I get a point that eventually people have options available within the Big Four as well. But somewhere Big Fours are able to brand themselves. While the ICI restricts practicing CAs from any kind of advertising promotions, we may call it surrogate marketing in the normal parlance as well. Is that the claim that Big Fours are somewhere flouting the rules to be part of this? Is that somewhere hold true?
I don't think so, because if you see all the Big Fours, to the extent that whatever the institute regulates, that's 100% followed in letter and spirit. Okay? And look at the competition today. It's no longer chartered accountants, Big Four, non-Big Four, individuals, proprietorships, partnerships. The entire technology space is a competitor today.
True.
Today I have, why should people come to me to file their tax return? There are so many online platforms which can do it efficiently,
Yes.
cheaply, etc. Right?
Yes.
So competition can come to you from anywhere. And if you ask me whether, again coming back to your question, how far does a brand go? Besides an initial introduction, there's nothing more which any brand can do for oneself. In fact, I always ask myself, am I doing enough to live up to the promise that my brand has created?
So it gives you a foot in the door, but then you have to make yourself home out
And guess
there.
what? When you enter the door, there are at least the other big three.
That's true. That's true. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I'm just trying to see a Big Four versus an Indian partnership firm getting into a foot.
No, but
That's
again,
where the challenge
no,
at
no.
times comes in.
Again, I am saying, see, I have seen work being executed flawlessly, very well by non-Big Four firms.
That's true.
I have many friends, not only in Mumbai, but across the country, who are not part of the Big Four, but are quite aspirational, who actually build fulfilling careers, not only for themselves, but for their people. Clients swear by them. Sometimes it's a tough ask for us to penetrate those clients if we want to.
I mean, fair point. I think where you come from is that Indian CAs also are able to get there. The last 15 to 20 years, while we have seen that number of CAs aspiring to practice versus industry has switched. Around 15 years back, numbers say around 60% new CAs will go for practice, but today 60% go for industry or service. Is that a logical step towards the fact that we will have lesser practicing firms in the future? Maybe because of higher regulation or getting clients getting more difficult, or is it the thought process that has changed in terms of getting a salary on the first of month instead of being an entrepreneur?
No, I don't think that's. You miss one important point. Actually, the whole industrialization, the formalization of India in the last 20 years has gone up exponentially, right? So I was a rank holder, right? So I had a offer from, say, only 5 or 6 top large corporates.
Correct.
Today, any rank holder, you'd be surprised, gets at least 50 offers, because there are that many number of companies.
Okay.
Also, companies are of different types. For example, you join a technology company, there's not only the promise of a career, but your ESOPs can make you a very rich man some point of time in future, right? That's also a very big attraction.
Yes.
Professional firms, by their very definition, cannot offer this at all. Otherwise, they risk their independence, which is actually the reason that they are in practice.
True.
So I think it's a mixed bag. Ultimately, choices have to be made by individuals, and whatever one chooses, one has to be faithful to it. and stick there for a long term. And again, I come back to compounding. If you expect a miracle overnight just because you've chosen a practice or just because you've chosen to go in a technology company,
It
may
doesn't
not
work.
happen.
I mean, that's where Jack Dorsey had also mentioned that, 10 years of perseverance, determination makes me look like an overnight success. People look at success today that he has become a partner at Big Four after, today. Like one of my immediate reporting senior just got promoted 3 months back as a
Wonderful.
partner. All
Wonderful.
right. And we have been friends for last 10, 15 odd years. But people look at him कि अच्छा वो partner बन गया है इतने सालों बाद. I know the 10 years of struggle that he has gone through, working with people like me also. So that's there. But very interesting point is that in the last 10, 15 years of internationalization, change in the way things function today, the entire curriculum or the entire industry is changing. How do you stay relevant as a CA today?
So I think your real beginning of knowledge starts after you pass your chartered accountancy,
True, I
not
agree on
not
that.
in your
I
chartered
absolutely
accountancy.
agree on that. Been there.
So actually, people forget that and then don't go back to their books or to newer areas of learning after qualifying, thinking that that's the end of the world. Uh, just give you simple examples, right? We are taught audit, tax, financial management, etc. But we don't know about industries. So, how do you develop deep sector knowledge about industries? Unless actually you deep dive into industrial forums. Clients have issues which are relevant to their particular industry, so you can't apply a generic solution to every industry. And that's why that's the need for specialization, the need to learn. Fortunately, we have the internet, which is such a boom
Yes.
today. In 3 hours time I can read up in on any industry in sufficient depth for me to
To have a
grasp at least the
conversation.
main points. And then there are so many blogs, websites, so many industrial forums which are available for free. One has just to enroll, and every week some mail or the other will keep
Information
popping
keeps
into your
coming.
inbox, which will keep you relevant.
So it's a personal interest and intent to learn about something and stay relevant and updated. And हर 2-3 साल में maybe do a small course or something, maybe online or offline, where you stay relevant to understand what's changing in that industry. And I think specialization is very important. That I build a niche for myself, and that will make me a brand itself. So then it depends, irrespective of wherever I work, it does not matter after that.
See,
I think
I'm reminded of a very interesting thought which a advisory partner in KPMG had planted in my minds almost at the beginning of my career. And he said, "Look, Hitesh, in 3 years' time, you have to change your medium.
okay.
Every 3 years, you have to be a different person. You have to have a different calling. If people know you today for an X skill set, are you sure that after 3 years that skill set itself will be relevant?
Relevant.
So how do you go on developing another skill set? So he said, in fact, he gave a timetable that after the first 18 months of honing your craft, you start jumping onto another bandwagon for another 18 months, so that then at the end of 3 years you have now two things to do. Then gradually give up that or delegate the first one and then
And
jump
pick
onto
up
the
another
next
one.
boat. So I think that's a wonderful piece of advice. And today, in this fast changing world, I think maybe 3 years has become lower rather than more, right? What is
Yeah.
the life cycle of any knowledge or a solution? Very, very rare. Everything is democratized. The
Correct.
moment a judgment comes, one can read that and understand what is the planning and, hey, come up to speed right away on what that other person has done. So it's a free society. So that's why I think the constant desire and thirst to learn something every day is
There.
invaluable.
So I know you have been learning for 40 years from your first stipend. I'm not sure how much that was,
60 rupees a
60
month.
rupees a month, to today being a senior advisor at KPMG, board of various companies. Tell us how your week today looks like.
Well, I spend a part of my week with KPMG where I do two things largely. One is, and this is close to my heart, I mentor young directors and partners. And the other is open up my relationships to the rest of the firm. I spend a few hours in a week at Parak Parik Mutual Fund because I absolutely am in tune with their philosophy. Their ethical culture inspires me. their commitment to the smallest of investors is something which is really worth emulating. And therefore, I learn a lot by sitting there. So that's two of my formal, if you call it, places to go to work. But I spend considerable amount of time also reading. Also, I have now finally indulging in all my music. So almost once a week, I am at any of the four big theaters,
Okay.
NCPA, Nehru, NMACC, and Prithvi, watching a play or a music program. So yes, I love travel, so that's another
Yeah.
of my passion. So I have a busy day.
It's not retired, basically.
No, I call myself refirement, not
Okay.
retirement. So
Okay.
I'm reinventing myself in this next
In
phase
this
of my
next
life.
generation. Can you spend some more time on telling us about this mentoring that you do of the young partners at Big Fours, and what's the intent and thought process behind it, and what is that we expect outcome from that?
So actually, I think mentoring is a very important piece in any organization, which somewhere gets lost in the hustle bustle of ready-made business and everyday business. Sorry, partners are putting in their best. They are running around. It's par for course. It's what nature is, that you might experience some setbacks. Mentoring helps them to open up in a completely friendly environment, in a very confidential environment, in an environment which only wishes them well. And I have no ready made solutions for my mentees. I help them analyze their own issues. I make a few suggestions. They try it out. If it works, wonderful. If it doesn't, then we try and go back to the drawing board, remodify some things. So I think it's very much a two-way process also. You'll be surprised as to how many new things I learn
While
from
in
my
this
mentees.
process.
Because remember, my mentees are not only in my chosen line of work, that is
Correct.
tax. I may be mentoring somebody in forensics. I may be mentoring somebody in digital. I may be mentoring somebody in audit. So I learn so many things about their work life from my mentoring sessions.
So when you speak about these young members who become partners in a Big Four, I mean, I'm sure there's excitement and euphoria also there, but it comes with a little bit of anxiety also being a partner in terms of delivering the quality and value that we always speak about. So all these conversations will be less technical and more professional in terms of their managing that situation or managing the team or expectation, more like a mental health. Is that my thought process right?
So, what I help first of all my mentees to understand that every professional career is built on three pillars, and we then examine each of these three pillars to say, is there some weakness in any of these three pillars, and what are these three pillars? First, your professional knowledge and experience. That's the first pillar.
Okay.
Second, the relationships and the confidence and trust of your clients.
True.
And third is your team, your people.
Correct.
Now, unless each of these three things is developed robustly over a period of time, and it takes time, somewhere, if there is a weakness in any of these three, it will lead to insecurity going ahead.
True.
So, from these three basic pillars, we try and map a current as is state of that person, and then look at what, and objectively, again, it's not me who is prescribing anything, it is he who has to find out through these mediums what he believes or she believes is an area which can be improved upon. And then I offer some practical suggestions on, I may have encountered some of these difficulties, how I may have gone about
Through the
resolving
process.
these, etc. And I think we have at least 3 or 4 mentoring sessions each year.
Each year.
And hopefully by the end of the year or 18 months, that person is in a better place than what that person was when he began.
That's interesting. I think that kind of learning, thought process, bounding makes it a lot of easier at times that I'm not the only one going through the problem. I will figure out my way on as I go ahead. So, one final question before we head to the rapid fire questions
Okay.
is that if you had a chance to restart your career, go back 40 years, would you do something differently?
No, I'm very, very convinced I would be a chartered accountant. I would be in practice. I think practice also helps you fulfill another objective, which for me is very, very deep, is helping people. Why do people go to practicing chartered accountants or to doctors or to lawyers? Because they are in need of some help, right?
Correct.
And I think if I am able to resolve somebody's problem, a real life situation, a tax issue which is very feared, first of all, put that person to ease and say, okay, it's not your problem alone. It's our joint problem, and let's put our heads together to see how we can overcome it. I think it's really fulfilling, and I would not do anything else.
I think, like they say, like never lie to your doctor, CA, or lawyer, because we are there to help you, and your success is going to define my success eventually in the long run. Thank you so much for that. A quick rapid fire, a few questions for you.
Sure.
If you had to appear for CA exams again, would you?
Yes.
Okay, interesting. If someone, a fresh CA, wants to become a partner at a Big Four, what's the time duration they need to devote?
See, I don't think of such questions as long duration, right? I think a person must learn to first give oneself completely. Okay, partnership is only an outcome. It can never be a goal. Okay, and partner is again only the beginning of something bigger and better. So I think it's a moving target.
Excellence pe dhyan do.
I think focus is more than
more
excellence.
discipline and
People are excellent, they are brilliant, but for short periods of time. I think people who succeed in life may be average, but they spend an above average amount of time consistently doing what they are doing. That's success for me.
One subject that you hated to study during your CA days.
Nothing really comes to mind. Not really.
You enjoyed all of them.
All the 10 subjects, I think I really deep dived into.
Okay. A book that you will recommend everyone to read. Now, since you're reading a lot of books, anything that you want to refer?
I think a very simple basic book is The Theory of Karma by Hirabai Thakkar. It's a wonderful book, only 80 pages, but it has life lessons in a very practical sense.
Okay. Your favorite travel destination?
Kashmir.
Okay, interesting. And before we wrap up, a few lines of your favorite song.
Well, there are many songs, but what is appropriate for this conversation is रुक जाना नहीं तू कहीं हार के सांसों पे मिलेंगे साए बाहर के हो राही. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So that was very sweet of you, and thank you so much for spending this morning with us, sharing your life journey of last 40 years from practicing CA to a Big Four, breaking a lot of myths for us in terms of what goes behind the scenes at Big Fours, and I think that will make it a lot more easier for our viewers also to make their career choices in the profession. A lot to learn for us juniors from seniors and advisors and mentors like you. That's been this episode of Beyond the Degree. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank
for
you,
being a part
Hardik.
of
I
this.
think we all learn from one another. For me also, this has been very enriching. Thank you very much.
This episode is powered by JK Shah Classes. Now, typically CAs are not known for all these cultural activities.
Correct.
But you are more known for those activities than for being a chartered accountant.
Correct. A chartered accountancy degree does not mean that you would only do accounts or finance.
Typical problem of today's generation, right? Short-term memory, short-term recognition, instant gratification.
Yes, absolutely.
एक ही चीज बार-बार करोगे तो बोर हो जाओगे.
Bore हो जाओगे.
CA बनने का कैसा सोचा आपने?
I wanted to be always staying science and wanted to be a doctor till standard 9. If I wanted to become a doctor along with my science, it would be difficult to continue with co-curricular activities, and I took up commerce, and I'm very happy today that I'm a chartered accountant.